Morena, kia ora koutou katoa, and warm welcome to everyone who's here, to our staff, to our members of the community, particularly Okura and Waiti and the Great Park Society. Warm welcome. We've got apologies from Member Brown, so we've got Member Ngamane here, Councillor Clow, Margoff, Councillor Sayers, and then Councillor Collins for lateness and Councillor Stewart for early departure. Is there anyone else that we want to? Nope. I'll move those if someone would like to second. Councillor Simpson. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against. Carried. Thank you for that. So I'll just do a quick run through how the morning will go. We've got a few chops and changes. So we've got we have got one series of, or one public input. We've got a slight change in the order of business. We're going to, after the Waiti development update, item 8, we're going to take item 15, which is our memo update, because as part of that we've got a presentation from John Morrow and team on climate change, and then the rest of it should just move through as it will. So, any declarations of interests? No? If issues arise, please signal any areas of concern as they come up. And I'm happy to move the confirmation of the minutes of the 10th of July. Councillor Filipaina will second. Any comments? No? I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Petitions, no, we don't have any, but we do have public input from Bunty and Carla, and I'd like to welcome you forward. Yeah, that's whichever. The next 10 minutes is yours to work out however you wish to do it. So just, Bunty, while you make your way up, we just need to be really clear. So this is the issue of 1080 that Carla and Bunty will talk about. We just need to, and I will ask Councillor Filipaina to address this at the right time. I just do need to caution us as a committee. The issue of the Ngāti Pawa Iwi Trust Board and the relationship with this issue is under legal scrutiny at the moment. So we can't, and it isn't appropriate for us to discuss, debate or make comment on who has kaitiaki status or the mandate for this issue in the Hanuas. So I will ask our two speakers to just stay quite clearly on what their concerns are and the issues they wish to raise over 1080, but we cannot traverse the issue of the mandate of Ngāti Pawa to this complex issue. So warm welcome, Bunty. And the next, so you've got 5 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I have a letter from a lawyer who's very experienced in these issues, these subjects, and
feel free to sit down if it's comfortable.
Okay.
Stand if you like, but sitting down makes it easier. So you're welcome to do that.
And she is clearly warning that there are legal concerns, and she has already been through the Court of Appeal with a case in Nelson, and we're just waiting for the judgment from the Court of Appeal. And the issue is dropping substance into rivers and river beds, and this is not allowed. So I just wanted everybody to be aware of that letter from Sue Gray. It's just not worth running the risk of doing anything illegal, because once this decision comes through, it'll be backdated. Now, there's a lot of major concerns regarding what DOC has been saying, and unfortunately many people seem to believe DOC, and And the situation is that, I mean, I haven't written any of this. This is other people. They're much more experienced than I am. They've done years and years and years of working on this and first-hand experience as well. And there's 19 native bird species have had their corpses tested and were positive for 1080. That's just different species. That's just not 19 birds, that's different species. And kea have been killed large percentages. Now at this rate, kea will be extinct very soon. But docs don't seem to own up to any of this. And in fact, they deny it and blame it on something else. Now there's kokako in the hanuas, and with the best will in the world, whilst I know that you're going to tell the helicopters to avoid the area where the kokako are, they are omnivorous and they're at very, very high risk of being poisoned with mass spring of 1080 all over the ranges and in the waterways. And of course, leaving the dead carcasses, poisoned carcasses, they're highly toxic, and a lot of birds die. The moorpork, the hawk, the weka, they all die because they're eating on the endangered eels, because the animals are usually in the water. And the update on the petition, I have here 3,723 signatures just on the one petition against the 1080 aerial application in the hanuas. Now, more people have signed it since yesterday, I know that. In addition to these signatures, there are 209 comments, and those comments are well worth reading. They really are. They're all here, every single one, okay? And I mean, one lady said, oh God, well, we can't have poison all over the place in Hanua. You know, my children go to school camp there and there's more planned coming up. And she is gravely worried, and rightly so. In addition to that one petition, there's another 18 petitions that are seriously asking for New Zealand to ban 1080 outright. There's another one of these in here which was also to the council for 1080.
There's 1 minute left.
1 minute left.
Yep.
And Doc is still saying, oh, 1080 doesn't kill deer. Well, it's killed thousands and thousands of deer, and every year, as well as the birds, the small animals, and unknown numbers of insects. Now, because of the imbalance and the causing of the toxicity, high toxicity in all the waterways, the soils, it kills all the microbes, all the bacteria, all natural's ecosystem, and it provides toxic water and toxic soils for the trees. Trees die. And honestly, it'll be the cause of kauri dieback. It will be, because it makes the whole forest, the whole ecosystem very, very unhealthy, and the poor trees can't get any goodness from the water or the soils. So it's a serious, and why run the risk? You haven't got, as far as we know, we haven't got kauri dieback in hanuas yet. But further 1080 will just help advance it, and it is a serious, serious concern.
Thank you,
So
Bunty. That's
please.
probably a good point
Thank you.
to
Yes.
end on. Then maybe we've probably got time for a couple of questions. Councillor Casey.
Can you, Madam Chair, just clarify the process whereby that decision was made and when the drop is likely to occur?
Okay, I think it would be useful because we've got the memorandum that sets all that out. Let's cover it when we get to the memorandums, and I'll ask Councillor Filipaina, who's the chair of that working party, to clarify. Because there may,
I'll wait for the middle of this one here. We just wanted to let the topic in.
I'm in Councillor Filipaina's hands, but our preference was to do it when we
Yeah.
deal with the memos. Any other questions?
You've been, Kathy, you've been advised.
If not, I'd like to thank Bunty Condon for her presentation. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Wayne Walker, I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much, Bunty. And I'm sure you'll stay, we won't be too long, and we'll get to our item on the memorandums where we can just cover a bit of detail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to invite Carla, and I just need to check the pronunciation of your surname, Carla. Is it Allies or Allies? Allies, I thought it was. So kia ora and welcome. Yep, just feel free to sit down, and 5 minutes is yours, and just hopefully you'll respect the issue that we raised. This is not the place for us to debate the mandate or the kaitiaki role of Ngati Pawa, either side of the debate. So if you can focus on the 1080 issues that you raised.
Yes, okay. I'm not very prepared, sorry. This is my first council meeting and I'm new to this job. There are mandate issues between Ngati Pawa Iwi Trust and Ngati Pawa Trust Board. I'm with the Trust Board. But for that reason as well, I'd like to consider the council to just hold off on starting this drop until all parties have, all mana whenua people have been, or boards have been spoken with, because as the Ngati Pawa Trust Board Environment Officer, I represent the people pre-settlement, and having been down to Wharekawa, which is in within 3 kilometres of the drop zone, the whānau down there were not, as of June, they'd not been informed. Everyone was very surprised when I brought it up with them, nor had the Iwi Trust been informed at the time. Mahu Rawari was unaware. So there's been a lack of communication, and the whānau down in Kaiawa are very concerned. They feel they've been left out of any communication. They don't want to consent to this drop until more information. They are concerned about the clean-up operation of the 2015 drop, and that there were still carcasses coming into the water, and it affects the ability of people down there to live off the land in any way. And that's a concern because, you know, there's not a lot of money in a lot of these rural regions. I have come up with an alternative pest control plan, which I would at least like to speak with Council and Doc about, and I'd invite them to contact me about that, because it's at least a discussion which in the long term could work out better for the people who live in the whenua. I understand from what you said the Iwi Trust Board is under, well, the relationship is under legal scrutiny. I'm actually trying to stay out of all of that because it's board matters and it goes on behind me. So I'm just trying to concentrate on environment and what the people have their concerns about, especially those who live down there. So I would almost beg, actually, for Council and Doc to speak with the Ngati Pawa Trust Board. They can maintain their communication with the Iwi Trust, that's fine, but we as a Trust Board really need to be kept in the loop on these sorts of matters. And I have run out of things to say. If you have any questions, hit me. Oh, sorry, no, one more thing. In Te Ao Māori, and I am big on this, all animals are sentient beings. A big problem of mine with the poison, aside from it affecting our food sources and waterways, is It's not a nice death. I can't even go into forests after drop zones because it just tears me apart. I have to stay away. And I'm not the only one who feels like that. Our queer down in Wharakawa almost start crying when the issue's even brought up. It really matters to us. We feel it in a way that is hard to explain, but it's deeply felt. So I would just say, I'm not saying no, never, don't do the 1080 drop. I'm just saying, please, can we speak some more and try and ease the concerns of the people who live there and other farmers and locals as well. And please, talk to us. I'm sure we can figure something out.
Kia ora, thank you. Talking is always a useful thing to do and an
Talking, not
underrated
yelling.
tool for solution finding. Couple of questions. Councillor Newman.
Thank you. I'm sympathetic to trying to find less invasive ways to address issues of pests in the forests. How do we address the infestation of the possums, the stoats, the weasels and the rats that form a biosecurity risk that ravage those forests and which are so prevalent that they are destroying our native species? How do we cull those pests using a less invasive means to 1080?
Well, for starters, the rat populations come back up to 75%. The possum population has remained low because they give birth once a year, so they're an easier pest to manage. The rats, the pest control plan I have is based on a previously done tracking rat trap system using the dock double-ended traps and having them in lines every 100 metres each kilometre, and basically just having a big trapping network and boots on the ground, which I'm personally keen for because I think Māori need to take on more kaitiaki duties, and that means being in the forest, living in amongst it, and helping deal with this problem. It means more boots on the ground, which we kind of need anyway, because now that the Waitakere has been closed down, which was a heavily promoted area for tramping, people don't, it takes time for word to filter down. So people are going to be heading to Hanua to trek all through our forest, which currently doesn't have kauri dieback. So we need rangers anyway, and I think we could see a way to have them kaitiake as well as trapping being part of that job.
I'd like to add just one more thing, and that is in answer to your question, and that is that every time, and this is nationwide, Hanua is no different, every time 1080 is spread all over a particular area, yes, sure, it knocks back the rats and the birds and everything else. And then 6 to 8 months later and ongoing, there is a plague of increased population of rats.
Can I stop you right there?
Okay, we just,
Actually asking me
Bunty, I
questions.
think
Well, I'm
you've
sorry.
had your say.
I've just
hang
said
on.
the rat populations come back up
Yeah.
to 75%.
Well, yes.
So we,
But-
hang on. We're
that's
just getting a
true.
little bit out of,
And it does
Bunty.
happen.
Thank you.
Sorry.
This is
My apologies.
Carla's time, and I just would like us to respect that.
Fine.
And we also have a lot of information to the contrary. Member Ngamini.
Kia ora. Look, I just want to acknowledge if this is your first time at council, you've done very well, and please keep doing it as a kaitiaki on the ground, and don't stop
Thank you.
raising the kaupapa and the issues with who needs to hear them.
Kia ora. Thank
Can
you,
I say
Member
one more
Ngamini.
thing, sorry?
Sure.
There is $188,000 that's just been granted to the iwi Trust. That could be a very good start in starting a kaitiaki program, which I will have to go back and speak with them about. But I would like to start diverting funding to actually, after the last drop, there were no ground-based methods apart from around the Kokako area, and that is why the numbers have come back up. They were knocked down to 0, but now they're back up. So we need to be doing things in between the drops and not just relying on 1080.
Okay, I'm just trying to keep the time under control because we do want to move on, but we've got Councillor Casey, Councillor Cooper, Councillor Walker with quick questions, then we'll call
But
it
it's
quits.
just a process question, Madam Chair. Now I know why I didn't know that 1080 was on the agenda today, because on our agenda on page 129 it says we have to go to the hub for the information, so there's no paper on the agenda for the public. And I don't have the hub, so I haven't seen whatever the information is that we're discussing, which is why I'm kind of clueless.
I see. So
Really good
just
if I
to
could
try.
have a copy by the time we get to that item.
Yep, and that's the discussion to have with your CSA. So if people need paper copies, that's the discussion you need to have with your CSA. Please print me off the memos so I don't have to go to the hub. We are trying to cut down on paper and trying to be electronic. The community have absolute, all of this is online as part of the agenda, so the community can read whatever we have available to us is available to the community.
On the public one.
Councillor Cooper.
It just, Chair, thank you, and kia ora for coming in, because it's not easy to face us, in this realm. I just, I suppose it's more a question
Sponsor the
around,
petition.
given that there's a rahui on the Waitakere Ranges, for the very reason we don't want people walking through the thing, I suppose I'm just asking you to think that through, because at the moment we don't have kari dieback as we know it in the hunuas, and just so you know, even Ark in the Park in Waitakere said that it's unsustainable for them to keep tramping through because the Baitlines actually are quite an infected line.
Well,
So that's just.
Oh, yes,
have you
I'm
did you
definitely
know
aware, 'cause
that
I did the
that's
Kauri
what they're
dieback
saying?
survey, so I know about that, and that's why I would like to put a team of Kaitiaki Rangers in there who are fully trained, and if they see anybody, to actually keep the place Kauri
Oh, yeah,
dieback free.
Sorry, that wasn't what I was saying, is that using the bait lines, it's been a line of infection, having bait lines, and that's, did you know that that's what Ark in the Park are now saying, is they don't want to be tramping through the bush, servicing the bait lines. That's a concern to them because they feel that it's spreading kari
And
dieback.
these are things we need to discuss within the iwi, because I have different trappers and hunters who have different opinions, and I'm trying to gather it all as fast as I can.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, well, have a look at the Ark in the Park.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and finally, Councillor Walker.
Sure. Just have a quick question, and I'll try and phrase it as a question, and that really goes to the relationship with Kauri dieback, and I just wonder if you're familiar with work that Nick Waipara has done
Yes,
in
I've
Mel's
met
Barton.
him. Yes, and I need to catch up with him to get an update.
And just further to that, are you aware of the meeting, I think it's out at Kelston this Thursday evening?
No, but I have a trust board meeting on Thursday. But I know Nick, and it is my intention to catch up with him
Wonderful.
at some point. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for
Good.
telling me.
And that just for general interest, Kelston Community Centre, 7 o'clock, 6:30, can't quite remember.
7:30 p.m.
7:30, Kauri dieback meeting. For those interested, everyone welcome.
And may I
So-
just say something
Yeah,
further to that,
sure.
Madam Chair? I attended a meeting run by the Okura people, some of whom are here, that included a presentation by Nick Waipara and Mel's Barton. And I can tell you that I was far more informed than, frankly, any other forum I've been to around that issue. And frankly, I was alarmed. And I would encourage other councillors to be more informed around this issue. And if you've got time to attend this forum on Thursday, go there.
Okay, we're straying a little bit into Kauri dieback
That's
from
okay.
1080. So
I knew you'd let me,
Forest,
Madam
it's
Chair.
forest.
It's
Because I
all-
have grave concerns about Kauri dieback. I did the survey in Hunua, and I know how healthy the trees are. I lived in the Waitakares for years, and I know the difference. And it is a big concern. That
Big
we,
on our radar.
yeah.
Okay, I'd like to move that we thank